Hello, hello, hello. Guys, it's DaveyOnEverything here, back with a new story, so listen up. So I want to start this story out with just a little bit of info about myself. So I grew up in a very normal, middle-class family in Canada. My dad worked hard to provide for us. My mom took great care of us. We played hockey and pee-wee soccer and, did things that just normal kids do. I have great parents and I love them to death. They're great people and they've always been there to support me and my brothers 100% of the way all the time. So when my parents were young, they bought this house downtown in the city that I grew up in. And they bought this house. It was supposed to be like a starter house. They never planned on staying there. But it grew to be our childhood home. And we had a lot of good memories at home, and we loved living downtown. It was a lot of fun, and yeah, it was really cool. Now, I don't know what downtown was like in the 80s, but when I was a kid growing up, population grew, people came from other countries, and the city started to grow really quickly. And they grew their borders instead of growing in the core. So downtown got lost, got forgotten, got left behind. Subdivisions were built. People moved out to the suburbs, they shut schools down. For the most part, people kind of forgot about downtown and stopped caring about it. Since downtown was not a hop-in area anymore, a lot of low-income people moved downtown because it was cheaper to live. But the plus side to all these people moving outside of downtown, it left room for all kinds of move in downtown. Downtown ended up becoming this very diverse part of town. And there was just this huge melting pot of people that were living downtown and went to school with me. Like any other downtown, there's homeless people, there's a lot of crackheads kicking around, and there was just a lot of just shady stuff happening down there. So living in this area, I got to experience all different kinds of walks of life, good or bad. I'm gonna fast forward a few years to when I was in grade 6. When I was in grade 6, my school was in the process of being shut down, and they were trying to fight to keep it open. They'd built new schools in the suburbs, and they were going to consolidate the inner city schools. And the school I went to was on the chopping block. Realistically, they were going to shut it down regardless. We didn't really have a chance, but the parents and the students and the teachers, everybody kind of rallied together. We tried to fight to keep the school open, but at the end of the day, they still shut us down. So the following year after they shut my school down, we were forced to go to one specific school, the next closest school, which was St. Bernadette's. I know this is going to sound silly, but when we were kids, St. Bernadette's almost seemed like this rival school, especially since they were keeping that school open and shutting ours down. So going into St. Bernadette's, we had this resentment towards it. We felt we were better. They thought they were better than us. And it was just silly, but when you're a kid, it's just it seems so serious to you. So we showed up at this new school and we were just basically frig you guys, we're St. Joe's kids, we'll never be St. Bernadette's kids. I have two brothers, a younger brother and an older brother. My older brother happened to finish grade school when the school shut down, so he just went to high school. While me and my younger brother, we went to this new school together, and I think he can also contest to this. We actually didn't like it, at all. I made some new good friends there, and they were great guys, but we just didn't really like the atmosphere. Again, there was always this tension that went there. In retrospect, there was nothing, but as a kid, you're I can't handle this. This sucks. So the following year, which was my grade 8 year and my younger brother's grade 7 year, we switched schools again. My mom got us into another nearby school, a little farther, but some people that went to the school that closed down, when they switched schools, they were in another district or section of the city, so they went to this school. So, and the principal from that school also went to that school, so it was easy. When we got there, we already had a few friends, and it was an easy transition. It ended up being actually probably the most fun year I had in grade school. I had these awesome new friends. I had some of my old friends. We had great teachers, especially my grade 8 teacher. Shout out to you, you know who you are. We had a lot of fun, and we had a great graduating class. Just like the other schools that I went to, this school is also in a lower income neighborhood. A lot of subsidized housing in this part of town, and it was pretty much still downtown. just like on a different section of downtown. Yeah, so there was also a ton of colorful characters that went to this school. A lot of the kids had like older brothers that were like already into some like grown shit. So they, you know, by proxy, their younger brothers were, you know, dabbling into it. So kids were like already selling drugs, smoking a ton of weed, like doing some real hard shit for someone in grade 7 and grade 8, right? There was one kid in particular, and his name was, well, we're gonna call him Jimmy. And Jimmy came from a different family. He was always into some shit. He caused all kinds of problems for the teachers. He was wild, like he was pretty wild, throwing desks around, like he just basically did whatever he wanted, and like you had no choice, but teachers just had to deal with him. Jimmy was like not afraid to just like stand up and try and fight somebody. Like in the middle of class, in the hallway, he would try and do some real shit to try and like, I don't know, intimidate you, scare you. He was like set off like that. Anything would set this guy off. Like it didn't have to be anything at all. And he would just lose his mind. And that caused for a lot of entertainment, if nothing else. Jimmy and I got in a couple little spats, nothing crazy. Like for the most part, we were pretty cool. But he definitely tried some shit on me before, and you know he was a funny guy. I kind of try and lay this out for you because this is kind of important to my story. The story involves Jimmy. Keep that in mind. I'm gonna try and lay out the school design for you. So the school had an extra separate wing that was built on like decades later after the school was built. And in that wing, there was 3 classrooms, a grade 7 classroom, 1 grade 7/8 split, and 1 grade 7/8 split. And that was it. That was really the only thing besides the bathroom was in that wing. So obviously I was in a grade 7/8 split, but there was only maybe 4 or 5 grade 7s in this class. So it was basically a grade 8 class. But which grade 7 was in this class? Well, Jimmy, of course. Like I remember a couple times where, you know, I might have said a little sly remark to Jimmy, and he just would like have a total hissy fit about it. The guy would just snap. I remember one time we were in the class, it was like me, him, like another friend of mine, and like we said something to Jimmy, and he literally just takes the desk and he flips it over, and like it's gone. It's like toppled over to some desk. We're like, bro, relax, man. Like that was not warranted one bit. But as a kid, we just kind of laughed at him. The wing of the school actually had windows that ran along the one side of these 2 classrooms on this side, and those windows actually faced the schoolyard. Actually, there was a canopy, so the windows faced most of the yard, but we're under this canopy that had been built, a big brick canopy. So like when you're sitting in class, you can just kind of look over and you can see what's going on in the yard. And not that there was a whole lot going on because we were in class and nobody was outside really, but people would cross through the yard, you could see them. There was like some bike racks and a playground over here, and you know, I mean, if nothing, if you're bored, you could just stare out the window and just like imagine some being out there playing dodgeball or tag or something, whatever you liked as a kid. The principal at this school was like the classic like no nonsense tough style principal. He was like the big dude with the bald head, and he had a deep voice. He was like that guy, you know, like right out of the movies. But he was a good guy, but he was the type of guy a school like that needed because there was so much trouble happening all the time. Like there's always some things with kids. The type of principal that a school like that needed, just because he did well handling the troubled kids and the kids that would cause problems, start fights, and he was a big dude. So like when you're like 5 foot nothing, 100 pounds in grade school, like this dude looks like a monster. He's a big dude. So yeah, he was a good principal for that environment, and he was a great principal in general. Like I never had a problem with him. He was cool. So Jimmy would frequently ride his bike to school because he lived close enough. Like it was no big deal. I lived kind of far. Me and my brother would walk sometimes, but a lot of the times we would just get a ride to school. But yeah, lots of kids rode their bikes. That's what kids do. Jimmy was one of them. He had his bike out on the rack, and I want to say it wasn't locked up. So we're all sitting in class. It's another boring day at school. It's like probably the springtime sometime. It was warm enough where people were playing outside, no problem, biking, whatever. We're all sitting in class, paying attention to the teacher. Obviously, there's people looking out the window, bored as hell, just trying to get through the day. And out of nowhere, somebody yells out, "Hey, he's stealing a bike!" With like a... I tried to sound like a child there. I don't know if that worked. But, yeah, somebody yelled out, "He's stealing that bike." Everybody's face turns towards the bike rack. What do we see? We see probably a teenager or so. He's probably like 17 years old. And he's out there and he's pulling one of the bikes out of the bike rack. Well, whose bike do you think that was? Out of all the bikes in this rack, there's probably like 20 bikes out there. Whose bike was it? Of course, it was Jimmy's bike. Well, as soon as Jimmy noticed that his bike was getting stolen, you can imagine how he reacted. Now, before I tell you what Jimmy did, I have to tell you that the guy that was stealing the bike, his sister was actually in our class. And I felt bad for her because she was actually such a sweetheart. She was a nice girl, good friend. And as soon as she realized that it was her brother that was the one stealing the bike outside, you could just tell like her face changed. Her head was down. She was just embarrassed. And I don't blame her. Like, that's pretty embarrassing. But what do you do, right? You can't control your brother. So back to Jimmy. Jimmy hops out of his desk. Probably like pushed it aside. Like that was going to speed up him getting out to his bike to save it. But yeah, he sprints. Like literally, you've never seen the guy run so fast. He sprints. He's gone. And now, out of our classroom, there's a hallway, and the hallway's not that long. Like there was like a classroom after us, and then the hallway goes down, another 20 feet or something, 20, 30 feet, and then there's a double set of doors, boom. When you come out of the double set of doors, you come around here, and keep in mind, this is where the bike rack is. You come around here, and you have to go a ways to get to that bike rack. So Jimmy's off, but the thing is, Buddy is already on the bike, like leaving, like he's gone. And the odds of Jimmy catching up to him, what do you think? Now, crazy enough, like the teachers actually reacted super quick. The principal was out there in no time. The cops were called. Jimmy is who knows where, trying to find his bike, running around the neighborhoods, around the school. He's obviously not going to find the guy. The principal, somehow, now this is a detail that I'm fuzzy about. Somehow they got Jimmy back. And that would have been a feat, because Jimmy, when he's determined to do something, he doesn't care what he does. Like, he gets rage blindness, like he's gone. So somehow they got Jimmy back. The cops were called, and they got Jimmy back into the school. They didn't find the bike. Now, you can imagine, I wasn't in there, but if I had to guess, at the principal's office, Jimmy was probably losing it. Like, they probably had to restrain him, if I had to guess. Like I said, I wasn't there, but I've seen how they handle Jimmy when he's throwing these fits. And if somebody stole from him, especially the type of kid he was, I wouldn't want to be there when they had to try and calm him down. Before any time had really passed, the cops actually had found the bike, and they found the guy. And from what I remember, he got arrested for stealing the bike. Jimmy got his bike back, but that didn't stop Jimmy from still making a whole scene about it. He was like acting like he was gonna beat this guy up and blah blah blah. Like, "Oh, Mr. Tough Guy, great, Jimmy. Listen, buddy, just be happy you got your bike back." We all saw the whole thing go down. You don't have to explain it to us, but anyways, Jimmy got his bike back. And the thing was, like, this wasn't even actually, like, big news around the school. Like, weird stuff like that, like, shady things like that happen so often that, like, Jimmy getting his bike stolen and then getting it back and chasing a guy down, it was, like, nothing. That was just a Wednesday at this place, I swear. So, like, before you know it, the story had passed through and nobody really cared anymore. But it was funny because Jimmy thought he was, like, some kind of, like, bike hero. So yeah, Jimmy got his bike back. The girl in our class was embarrassed. Everybody eventually got over it, and we went on living our little grade 8 lives, playing games and hanging out. So anyways, guys, that's the end of my story. If you liked this video, please subscribe. Throw me a comment, throw me a like. That would be very much appreciated. And until the next video, thanks for watching. I'm Davey on Everything. Have a good day.